Yo, Devy Junkies. Welcome to another Devy Dashboard production. I am Brandon Lejeune, host of the Devy Deep Dive podcast and creator of the Devy Dashboard. I'm joined today by Cory Pereira and Britt Sanders, two contributors from the Dashboard. How are you gentlemen doing?
Lovely.
Pretty good.
Lovely.
All right, today we're going to discuss, we each decided we're going to talk about two Devy players that we think are buys in the market right now, that we think have the opportunity to have their ADP rise as we go through fall ball this year. So I am going to go first. I'm going to talk about one of my favorite wide receivers. He plays for Penn State, Johan Dotson. It's a guy that all my Dashboard crew knows that I've been kind of high on. And I think the first time I really started seriously considering Dotson as a player that could go to the NFL is after watching the Ohio State game last year. I mean, he was like super impressive. His stats, he had 8 receptions, 144 yards with 3 touchdowns, and he really simply dominated in that game. I like the way he gets off the line of scrimmage. He had a great one-handed grab. I mean, he's got, I think, a big catch radius. He's got strong hands. And I just thought overall, I mean, last year he had 884 total yards, 8 TDs, 17 average. So I think, if Clifford can pull it together, for Penn State, I think Johan Dotson has a great opportunity to be a riser. We always, we've got 3 or 4 guys at the top of the 2020 wide receiver class, right? The 2021 class next year, right? So who is going to be maybe a guy that could have that Elijah Moore type rise? And maybe get that draft capital next year, maybe day 2, something like that. But Jahan Dotson, I think, is a great opportunity. Plays alongside Parker Washington, I think he's a guy who, this time next year we could be looking at a second round possible rookie pick if in fact he declares for the NFL. So. I'm pretty excited about him. I think he has the opportunity. He is getting NFL buzz right now, so maybe a little late to the buy party, but I'm pretty psyched. I got many shares of him, so I'm pretty psyched to have Dotson on my squad for next year, and I think his arrow is pointing up. So he is my first buy. Britt, who do you got?
My first buy is going to be Jaylen Berger, the 2020 freshman out of Wisconsin. I believe you did a deep dive on him in one of your podcasts a little bit ago. Mm-hmm. I had an article written on him in Breakout Finder. I like what I'm seeing. I don't think there's a lot of competition with him right now. We know what we can expect out of Wisconsin running backs, and I think he's got the size, he's got the ability. When we're looking at his analytical metrics in general, he's got a BMI already of 28.5. He's got a market share of 12.98%. He had a 10% dominator. There's a lot of growth, a lot of availability. He had a 26.13% rushing market share, which is impressive given the fact of who he was also sharing with. And I think that there's going to be a massive opportunity void. And a lot of these guys that I'm talking about with my buys right now are strictly just from a opportunity perspective of who I believe is going to step into the role. And I think Jaylen Berger's got more than enough experience and ability to be productive. The only thing he's going to need to show to take his game to that next level is he's going to need a little more lateral wiggle, which I believe is what you talked about as well, Brandon, is just showing his ability to make a defender miss on more than one occasion, because that is the biggest flaw you see, is that he's just more likely to lower his head and take on contact and kind of initiate a juke here or there. What about you, Cory?
I like those 2 buys from you guys. Johan Dotson going to be crazy productive next year probably for Penn State. Jaylen Berger, Wisconsin likes to ride that one back. I think Jaylen Berger is going to be really good, especially C2C leagues. But I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction, somebody who hasn't really shown too much yet on the college scale. But my first buy is going to be Josh Downs, a wide receiver out of North Carolina. Josh Downs was a highly ranked recruit in 2020. He was out of Georgia. He's bordering on a 5-star prospect. He got some pretty gaudy verified numbers, 41-inch vert, 4.47 40-yard dash. So you'll have to see those numbers. The size is going to leave something to be desired for some people, 5'9", 180 pounds. But, you look at the NFL, you look at the way they're trending lately to these smaller, quicker separation guys, like the Hollywoods, the Tyreeks, the Waddles, the Ruggs. You even look at Eskridge and Schwartz getting really solid draft capital this year. Guys want that role on their offense nowadays, and Josh brings that to the position. So you look at North Carolina the past year. they're going to be losing their two top wide receivers in Daz Newsome and Devy Brown, right? These guys were Howell's favorite targets over the past 2 years. They've accounted for over 220 targets, 3,700 yards, 36 touchdowns just over the last 2 years alone for Howell. And I mean, Howell is going to be looking for new weapons. I mean, and when Miami ended up opting out of the bowl game at the end of last year, who was the guy who stepped into the role was Josh Downs, connected with him for 4 catches, 91 yards, and 2 scores. So, I mean, Howell's going to be looking for new weapons. And I think that Josh Downs is going to be this guy for Howell going forward. And I think that you should, buy him now before he ends up breaking out, because I really think he's going to. His price is still reasonable. He's hanging around 69, 70 in the dashboard ADB. I'm personally super high on him. I've got him ranked as a top 30 player. I think Brandon's got him ranked as 33. He's in the 30s for you too. So we're both reasonably high on his ability. I like him over guys like Mims, Washington, Drake London. So I've got big expectations for Josh Downs this year.
I like it, dude. I think he's an explosive player, and like you said, the vacated targets. I mean, Christ, he's got to throw the ball to somebody. So, yeah, and another guy you can throw out there too is Coffery Brown. Is that how you say his name, Coffery Brown?
I think so, anyways. Yeah. But yeah, I like him too.
Brother. Yeah, I mean, he's another explosive player as well. So I like the call, dude. All right, it's coming back to me, and this is a guy I got a share of in almost every C2C league. I took this guy. Just because first off, his father played as a quarterback, Max Johnson of LSU, the quarterback. And I know at this recording at the end of July that it is, Tim and Miles Brennan have still, they're going to have to fight it out in camp. But I'm going to roll the dice and say that Max Johnson is the guy that gets the rock. And, I was really impressed with his last 2 games against Florida and Ole Miss last year. I think he really, we threw 3 TDs in both of those games. I love his size at 6'5", 219. He's got adequate arm strength. His completion percentage was just under 60%. Not great, but it's not the worst either for a young kid. And I loved the mobility that he showed. In those 2 games against Florida last year, he, had 52 yards on the ground and 45 against Ole Miss. So for a 6'5" guy, 219, who's got a good arm, had decent accuracy, it shows mobility. That really impressed me. And I thought he looked good in the spring game too. So he's going to have all 5 offensive linemen returning for LSU this year. So that's a plus. He's got weapons. He's got Boutte, which is, the wide receiver Debbie Darling right now that everybody wants. And he works out with his dad every day, with his skill set. So, I mean, no better mentor to have than your dad, chirping in your ear. And I read a report too, which was really cool, that they actually watched every game together after their game and broke down film together in their basement and all that. I just love the whole story. And a little tidbit too, pretty cool, is the fact that in 2025, that class, not this year's freshman, but next year's freshman, the top tight end in 24/7 is his brother. So I'm thinking that, he's going to start hopefully this year. He's a 2023 quarterback prospect, so he's not going to the draft this year, but then he's going to stick around. He's going to want to play with his brother, who is, like I said, the highest ranked tight end in the 2025 class. So I'm pretty excited about him. I mean, right now, you look at that class, right? You got DJU, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, right? I got him at number 4 in that class, because the guys behind him, Haynes King, Hudson Card, Harrison Bailey, Jay Butterfield. I mean, I don't know. There's all sorts of other guys after that. So, I mean, after those top 3, I think, if he can come out this year and solidify himself and take that job from Miles Brennan, I think his stock is going to go super high. And like I said, I got him in almost every C2C league. And while you're at it, just go get Miles Brennan too, because he's basically free. So you're hedging your bets that if he does lose, you could probably get Miles Brennan off your waiver wire in your C2C league. So I'm excited about Max Johnson, man. It's LSU. Big program, SEC, Joe Burrow and all that. So I don't know if he comes out and kills it this year. I think he's going to be an ascending quarterback, and now's the time I think you grab him if you can. So, all right, Britt, who you got, man? Who's your second guy?
My second guy is a favorite of mine. He has 3 receptions for 80 yards and a touchdown, and that's his entire 2020 career.
I love this guy.
And I'm telling you to buy this guy. All right, he's 6'4", and he is 214 pounds, right, or 13 pounds right now. He, as his one game, had more receiving yards than 4 other wide receivers that played 5 games for the Auburn Tigers, and it's a one game. They currently, which I just want to throw that out there, right? They currently have 57.61% vacated targets right now, because Anthony Schwartz and Seth Williams both left Auburn.
That's right.
he is the biggest guy right now, the biggest threat receiving wise for the Auburn Tigers. Eli Stove, who had 370 yards as I believe, a sophomore. So really, the number 2, number 3 spots wide open, and him being a bigger body guy, a guy that's got a plus 20 yards per target or per catch reception, which granted, 1 game, 3 receptions. I understand, extraordinarily small sample size. But if I'm going to go and roll a dice, it's coming out a guy like this. He's already pretty much at that size threshold. The ability to put on at least 10 pounds in between his freshman year to his junior year or even senior is exceptionally likely to me. So he's a guy I'm pretty high on, and I'm also very ecstatic to steal this guy from Corey, because I know Corey is as well very, very happy on Elijah Canyon. This is a guy that he's not going to cost you pretty much anything. I believe I got him in the 35th round of a C2C startup. So, free, right? So if you got him on the waivers, I'm sure he's on some waivers. Really easy throw in an accessory trade to kind of go and start hedging your bet. And this is less about Bo Nix, and it's really more just about what they've got in that system as in general. And hey, shoot, if Bo Nix decides to actually be a quarterback and get better and like show this transformation that we want to see, then it's just going to be wheels up even more for Elijah Canyon. So that's my second buy right now for him.
Yeah, he in the supplemental C2C drafts that I'm in, I mean, he's been actually being picked in the 3rd or 4th round. So, I mean, he wasn't drafted in a lot of C2C startups last year. So you're absolutely right. He's very affordable right now. And I'm pulling for Bo Nix, man. I mean, that guy's, how much pressure that poor kid had coming into that program with his dad and the whole 9 yards, man. I really hope he does well. And I don't think he's obviously not going to the NFL, but just from him personally, I'd love to see him end his career on a high note there. And get those receivers involved. So, all right, Corey, man, who do you have for your second Devy buy right now?
Yeah, so I love those 2 buys. I know Max Johnson's been your guy for a long time. You've been touting him. I love Elijah Canyon, man. I just did an article on him, actually, coming on Breakout Finder soon. I just wanted to throw in there that Eli Stove is actually gone. He's playing with the Los Angeles Chargers. And to add more hype, Elijah Canyon's actually been running at the X position, which is like the wide receiver 1 in Mike Bobo's offense, who's been crazy productive through his year. So go buy Elijah Canyon. He's going to be even better than Britt made him sound.
Yeah,
anyway.
So just real quickly, that means that the remaining people coming back, none of them have clipped 100 yards coming into the Auburn season. Oh, Bo Nix is screwed.
Yeah, that could be part of it too, right? That's one thing we got to worry about too with him. But the reports have been good, at least for now. I mean, he had a strong spring. But anyways, for me, my last guy, I'm going to head over to Clemson, who's kind of been wide receiver kind of late. I know, maybe I'll put him up there a bit. I mean, you go back to Sammy Watkins, Mike Williams. I mean, if you want to call Hunter Renfrow a hit, I don't know if you want to call that a hit. He's in the NFL anyways, but they got good talent there now with Joe Nagata, Justin Ross. They just had Amari Rogers drafted. Cornwell Powell got drafted. So, but I'm going to be taking a look at their sophomore wide receiver, EJ Williams, who kind of broke out a little bit last year. Didn't put out true breakout numbers, but actually made the biggest impact of the 3 guys that were expected to after Ross's injury, right? I mean, it was Joe Nagata, it was Frank Ladson that a lot of people were thinking were going to make the impact, right? But as the season grew, so did EJ's role, right? He ended up finishing with 24 catches for 308 yards and 2 scores. He was making some dazzling catches. He even has this one-handed grab against Notre Dame that you got to go check out. I mean, it was tremendous. But I mean, at the end of the day, the raw production doesn't seem like much, but he's essentially Clemson's returning leading wide receiver. I mean, Joe Nagata didn't play much because battling injuries and just failure to make an impact. Frank Ladson fell out of the role. He started out strong, just faded down the stretch. And EJ's in the mold of your typical Clemson wide receiver, right? He's 6'3", 190 pounds. He's what they like on the outside. He's got some decent verified results. 7-inch vert, which is decent numbers coming out of college, right? I mean, we got to remember a lot of these guys like Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf, even his running mate T. Higgins. These guys all ran 4.7, 4.8 coming out of high school, right? And these guys all by combine time were running 4.5s and under, right? And I mean, speaking of T, I mean, I see a lot of similarities with T in his game too, right? It's the great body control, it's the adjustments, he's a big playmaker, strong hands. So, I really think that he's coming into this spring with a strong hold on one of the starting jobs. Dabo even stopped the practice mid-practice this year to complement his work ethic. Say people need to be working harder like EJ Williams is working. So I mean, they've already talked about moving Justin Ross to the slot. So I think we're looking at Joe Nagata on the outside, and I think EJ Williams has got the starting position on the other side locked down. So I mean, on top of all that, you look at post 2021, and there's nobody in that wide receiver room. There's nobody. So you're talking about EJ being possibly the top option for DJU, who's my 1.1 Devy, possibly the most talented passer in college, if we can put it all together, right? So yeah, I think he's still going at a crazy reasonable price. I think his dashboard ADP is about 70. I've got him ranked in the 40s. I think Brandon's got him ranked even a little bit higher than I do, so we're both fairly high on the guy. So yeah, I mean, I really think you should head out there and get get the DJU's #1 weapon for his career in EJ Williams.
Oh, I love it, man. I think it's a great pick. I'm excited just to see all the big programs. You know, Alabama's got, you know, a lot of new skill positions. Ohio State. I mean, it's really going to be really interesting. You know, going back to your Canyon pick, you know, from Auburn, I wonder what that means for Bigsby with all those stacked boxes. Right, you got all those young receivers. It's going to be interesting to see, you know, how they attack that offense now with. You know, he's their primary weapon now anyway. So, yeah. All right, man, love it. That's great, man. I appreciate you guys tuning in. It's a great show. We got 6 great Devy buys there, and we really feel confident that all of these players, you know, this time next year, their values, you know, should be increase, and we'll see what happens, man. Fall ball's right around the corner, so we're all looking forward to it. Thanks, guys, for tuning in and joining us.